is up? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day. Back with some more Resident Evil 2 Remake gameplay for you. And I'll be honest, what I was planning to do is I was planning to go through a video talking about each of the main characters from Resident Evil Death Island and talk about their roles in the movie and what they could possibly be post Resident Evil Death Island, a newly released CGI movie. And so far so good. I got out my review of Death Island, got out character videos on Jill, Leon, and Chris, and I was planning to do Claire and Rebecca. That was the plan, but after the recent news this past day that you may have heard, or maybe you haven't heard, I decided I'm going to have to change it up a little bit. I'm going to put Claire and Rebecca in this together because the kind of news we've heard today kind of ties into both of them as well as a bigger thing. So basically, I'm going to be talking about both Claire and Rebecca, but as well as the thing that was basically seen all over social media, and a lot of people were really pissed and upset. Even though I'm not really that surprised by it altogether, but it is what it is. But basically, I'll give a little short thing with both Claire and Rebecca in Death Island. I'll start with Rebecca first, since that's probably the easier of the two. Rebecca basically plays her role pretty good. You can actually say she's probably the MVP of this movie. As I said, she starts out, basically first see her in a scene where she's telling Chris about how, how Jill blamed herself and that, Chris can't keep baby her and all that stuff. And then she, I think the next time you see her is when she's telling him, like, all these events are all connected to Alcatraz. And she comes in later with the vaccine that heals all the heroes except for Jill because she wasn't infected, but basically heals them all, and comes in person, which basically, you can say the MVP for that move right there. But as I said before, Rebecca isn't seen in the same light as maybe the major characters, but I feel like she's a perfect support character. I can actually see her fulfilling a like Hunnigan-esque type role, while maybe once in a while coming out in the field. But I do think she was used a lot better than what she was in Vendetta, so that was a big plus, because as I said, she's not someone that likes to go out the field and fight. We'll do it if it has to be, but someone that's behind the scenes working as support, in the laboratory making vaccines, so I do like that. But so overall, can I see Rebecca in the future? Yes. I don't know if she'll be a playable character, but who knows? The one thing I always hear a lot of is, she'd be the perfect main character for they make another Revelations, like a Revelations 3. I always hear that, and I wouldn't have a problem with that, but I just don't know if that's going to happen. But you definitely got to imagine she's going to be involved somehow, some way in the future with the whole BSAA, because think about how BSAA is using bioorganic weapons and stuff, and she can create vaccines, so she's definitely going to be vital in that part. So definitely as a support person, I could definitely see her playing a big role. And obviously her relationship with all the other characters, everyone seemingly gets along with Rebecca. And how do you not get along with Rebecca? Rebecca's probably the nicest person in the entire Resident Evil universe. But I digress. So that one is pretty simple. Claire, it's a different story. And Claire, I love Claire. I do. And I will say this right now. With it seemingly seemed like Capcom is going to put the attention to Jill, and rightfully so. It's been farther to do. I just feel like that's not going to be the case with Claire, because I'll basically say I think Claire is basically the Rodney Dangerfield of the Resident Evil universe. You could argue maybe other characters get more disrespected than Claire, but the difference between them and Claire is Claire used to be a main character, a big-time player. I mean, she was a main character in 2 of the 4 major Resident Evil titles. Obviously Resident Evil 2 and Code Veronica. She was a main character in both of those things. And the fact that she has fallen so hard and it's just so fat, it's just unbelievable. But as I said before, in this movie, I'll be honest, Claire really didn't even need to be in this movie, because she really just... It's nice to see them all together, but even when they're together in this movie, she really doesn't have any sequences that really stand out. I guess her biggest sequence is in the when they're in the cell locked up, and even though the guy earlier was insulting her because the whole thinking Terraceve, apparently Terraceve was framed, and he was taken out on Claire, and Claire got mad at him, even though he wasn't, and even he lied about who he was too, the scientist. And the DARPA guy. I can't think of his name to save my life, but basically he got shot in a cell, and Claire was infected, but Claire was still trying to save him, and he was basically, why are you trying to save me? And when it seems hopeless, and so even if there's somewhat no hope, I'm not going to stop trying and stuff like that. And it's a very Claire move. Claire is a very is a character that once again values life and will do everything she can to save people, no matter how bad it may seem, and no matter how bad the situation goes. But other than that, it's just like she really doesn't, like, she didn't do really anything. She has a few nice sequences, and granted, it's a million times better than Infinite Darkness, so that's a plus. But it's just like, I just don't feel like this movie really respects her. Like, she's just kind of like there in a lot of sequences, just there to be there. You don't really have a lot of good interactions with her, like in terms of like the other characters. Like, we're happy to see the Redfield siblings team up, and they have a few moments, but nothing like that really stands out that makes you go, oh, that I can't. It's been like since Code Veronica since we've seen a team up. That's cool. I was really mad it had pretty much no Jill Claire moments. Like, yeah, the scene where they're in like the office, laboratory, whatever, but it's just like that's unacceptable. Like, they've never been seen on screen before, and that's the best you can do. Like, come on now, that's just you gotta do a lot better than that. She does have a little nice team up with Rebecca, which was cute and cool, but it's just like, I don't know, like, because I could have like seen Claire kind of being maybe the middle person and mediating, Chris and Jill when they were having their moments earlier on in the film, but they just, I don't know, it just didn't give her any, like, if she wasn't in this film, nothing really changes. And it's funny, like I say, Claire, I see her as the Rodney Dangerfield of the Resident Evil universe. It's kind of like her organization TerraSave. It's like they're like the redhead stepchild organization of the Resident Evil universe, because it's just like they're never going to put in the same respect as like the BSAA or the DSO or something like that. It's just like an organization that Claire happens to be a part of, but they never really elaborate too much on it. And it's just like, I feel like that's where this movie needs to be longer, so you can have Claire used more and used more in meaningful ways. Because I mean, I just feel like Capcom just doesn't really respect Claire, which is what I'm going to get to eventually. But where can I see Claire possibly fitting in the future post Death Island? And guys, that may even be harder to do than what I was trying to do with Leon, because we know Leon, he is, Resident Evil's most popular character, so they're always going to find ways to get him in there. But with Claire, it's just different because, people always say, with TerraSave, it's not like, it's not like it's a combat group to go in there to like fight bioterrorists. It's just basically trying to patch things up. And I just feel like that's a flimsy excuse just to keep Claire out of the action. But it's like, I could create so many events where it's just like Claire is going to investigate, or help somebody, and then she gets thrown in a situation where she has to fight out of it. So it's like, you could easily have things, but either way, it's like I could think of like maybe, Chris needs help. Chris, obviously she's going to help her brother, and maybe she comes in from a different perspective. But it's just like, I don't want Claire to be forgotten in the background. Like, she is one of the major characters, and it's like everybody, I mean, even like the intro of the movie where they're like showing all the characters' bios, like they go a little extensive with, Jill, Leon, and Chris, but with Claire, they just show her Infinite Darkness thing. It's like, of all things to show, it's like when I see Claire, it's like, she survived Resident Evil 2, but I always feel like everyone is acting like, oh, well, it was Leon's thing. Claire just happened to be there. It's like, no, she survived too. She went through all that hell just as much as Leon did. And then Code Veronica, she went through all that and stuff, and then had another adventure in Revelations 2. But Claire is one of the most badass, accomplished characters in the Resident Evil universe, and they just act like that she's just some bench player when she's clearly not. So, but one thing I do want to see them use for Claire, and I already mentioned this in the Leon video, I want Claire and Leon, and it should have happened in this movie, honestly, but another missed opportunity. I really want them to patch up their things after Infinite Darkness. I know you probably can take it from this movie that they're not at each other's throats, but it's not satisfying for that stuff to happen off screen. You want to see it on screen, and how that ended in Infinite Darkness, it left a bitter taste in my mouth, and I'm just like, that's not right. And I want to see them have good interactions, because Claire and Leon, they have great chemistry with each other. They do have good interactions, and it's not right that it's just I just completely avoided that. It's just like, it's weird. Like, you have all these characters, and it's just like Claire just always seems to get the short end of the stick. But nonetheless, now I get into the real thing that everyone's going crazy about. And if you haven't already heard, there was a interview done, and where people were interviewing the people at Capcom about Resident Evil, because a lot of people were making a big stink about. If you remember when Death Island was first revealed, the first thing people were saying, I was, oh my god, Jill's back. But the first thing they were saying is, oh my god, like, Jill is she looks the same as her Resident Evil 3 remake self. Like, she looks like she hasn't aged a day. Like, what's going on? And eventually, they basically summed it up that, like, she doesn't age because she has so many viruses in her that they basically slow down her aging. So she ages very slow, etc., etc. And if you want to buy that, fine. I personally don't care either way, because I know the real reason why they won't do it. I've always known the real reason why they do it. They're just trying to find some in-universe reason that can somewhat make people believe it. But we know the real reason why if you've really been following closely. But regardless, I'm just like, whatever. If you can get them in games, fine. But I'll read this whole thing, and when you get to a certain part of here, you're going to see the real part that got people really upset. But here we go, and I quote, to Resident Evil's credit, it seems to at least be making Jill's decelerated decrepitude part of the plot. So during a recent press screening of Death Island, I asked screenwriter Makoto Fukami if we could elaborate on why the men in Resident Evil are aging while the women aren't. It is in fact true. It is a setup for Jill, Fukami explains via a translator. She's gotten infected by the virus twice or 3 times, I think, so she is infected. So she is indeed the one that's not aging. It's an official setup by Capcom, actually. Capcom seems to be using Death Island to set up some future stories for Jill, which has some interesting narrative ramifications. We haven't seen her since she appeared in Resident Evil 5, working as Wesker Straw to thwart Chris and Sheva. Death Island deals with the fallout of Resident Evil 5 as Jill copes and comes to terms with the things she did under the virus's control. It has been 8 years since the events of Death Island, and we've seen a few decades in the future thanks to Village's Shadow of Rose DLC. But we have no idea what Jill has been up to in that time. Death Island is the furthest point in the timeline we've ever seen Jill. So in fact, that Capcom is using this move to establish her agelessness indicates that we'll be seeing more of her story soon. As for Claire and Rebecca, Fukami simply says, it's also true that they're not aging. We kind of kept it the same thing. It sounds like Jill was the only important character to keep young for future story reasons, while the other two were kept young incidentally, perhaps to make the Blu-ray slipcover look more appealing. And yeah, the last part is the part that I want you to think about, because that's basically why I put Rebecca and Claire together in this video. So, bottom line is this. Before I get into the aging thing, this is the thing I really fear, and I talked about it with Claire. I can understand Rebecca, just because obviously I don't think people hold her in the same light as the major characters, but it basically just explains the thing I feel about Claire. Claire is just not respected like Leon, Chris, and now Jill. And it still remains to be seen with Jill, because as I say, I want to see her in a new event, so I won't, pop the champagne just yet. But Claire just gets no respect, and basically the whole reason that they're here is to just, I don't know, just according to them, look hot and appealing and stuff like that. Not here for an actual reason that matters and gets people excited, and that's insulting. That really is, especially if you're a Claire fan, and I am a Claire fan, and that's not right. Claire deserves to be in these future brand new Resident Evil games, and as I said, we've been talking about, hey, are they ever going to remake Code Veronica? Well, not only does it not seem like we're going to get Code Veronica remake, it seems like we're just not going to get Claire at all, because as I said, the only reason they kept them young is just for, attractive reasons. In this movie, just because, they didn't have a plot reason, just because they're not apparently important characters. So, yeah, Claire is not an important character, and also Rebecca's not really an important character. And it just goes to show you that, this is why I've always said to people, and I try to explain this, because a lot of people want to make the reasons that, there's other characters that deserve this spotlight more. And, and they go on to the Carloses, the Billies, the Barrys, the Shevas, the Helenas, the Sherry Birkins. And I always tell them, I'm not arguing about not, I want to see them done justice too. But when you have a character such as Claire done this way, and apparently Claire's not an important character, what chance do those characters ever have? Like, honestly, Claire's just basically here to be hot and attractive and look pretty, and it shows in this movie because she's really not used at all. She's just there to be there. I mean, hell, you have Claire meeting Jill for the first time, and it's just a basic, normal conversation, and it's just, there's nothing about it makes me think, oh shit, because that's the thing I want to see more than anything is Jill and Claire have good interactions and team up, but it never happens. That's one thing I would like to see in the future is I'd like to see Jill and Claire in a game together, post Death Island, obviously. I'd like to see them work together, but who knows? Apparently, as I say, Claire is not an important character. But that's what I said with the other characters I mentioned, the less characters. I mean, they can't respect someone like Claire. How are they going to respect those people? I mean, what chance do they got? I mean, for the longest time, I was saying, like, Capcom only seemed like cared about Leon and Chris. Now, after 15 years, they seem like they're trying to get Jill into it. But once again, we still got to be patient. We can't pop the champagne just yet. But it just goes to show you that, as I said, Claire, the Rodney Dangerfield of the Resident Evil universe, apparently not an important character according to Capcom. So, now we get to the whole aging thing. And guys, listen, I'm not... I'm just going to tell you short and sweet, tell you the God honest reason. The reason why Jill, Claire, and Rebecca all look young, because they're all like, well, why do men look older and women look younger? It's not. It doesn't take rocket science. We know the reason why. Okay, you go over in Japan. What's the big thing in Japan? Japan is anime. Anime is basically king over there in Japan. Okay, that's their bread and butter. When you look at all the female characters in Japan, they all look young and over attractive. Like, I mean, you try finding an ugly female character in Japan in an anime. Yeah, that'll be quite a. And I'm not saying there isn't, but you try finding that. That's more of a task than finding all the young hot ones. But that's the main reason why. Because over there, they think beauty is the most important thing about a female character. That's the thing that sells and gets people to go in there and buy it. And to be fair, they're not wrong. That's the thing that people notice first is the looks. You could have the best female character, but if they don't look attractive, then no one's going to, go over there and do anything about it. Now, you could argue, hey, you could still have them look attractive if they're older. And yes, I agree. I'm not disagreeing with that. But obviously, they're really anal about that. They really just want to, keep them young forever, which, granted, I wouldn't mind that if they did something meaningful with them. I could live with that if they did something meaningful. Granted, it'd be great if we got the best of both worlds. If they age and, also develop at the same time, that'd be great. But unfortunately, that's how it is over there in Land of Rising Sun, and that's a culture thing. And I don't know if you could ever change that. That's why I've just kind of never gotten mad at it, because it's just like, it's like you coming over in the United States and, trying to change something in the culture here or whatnot. It's just not going to work. You can try all day, you can cry all day, but it's just how it is. You don't have to like it. And I'm not saying I necessarily agree with it too, but it's just like I've already accepted these things a long time ago. I knew the moment they said Jill wasn't aging because of the viruses, I know that they were just trying to find something that people might believe in and stuff. It doesn't have to make sense. I mean, a lot of things don't make sense in Resident Evil, let's be honest. But the point is, I knew when they said that the real reason was they wanted to keep her young, okay? Because, as I said, women and men are viewed differently over there in Japan. You have the men look older, more scruffier, have, like, battle damage, scars. But over there, if you did it to female characters, it's a completely different thing. It's just not the same thing. So you have some old battle damage woman with, like, scars and stuff like that. But, yeah, unfortunately, it's a culture thing. As I said, I get it. I get people getting mad and upset about it, and I understand it, and I wish there was a way to have some type of middle ground, and I do believe if they put enough effort, they could do it, so I get it, and I understand it, but it's just, I don't know if that's ever going to change, and maybe one day it will, but, I mean, just look at, as a lot of these animes, like, they'll do situations like, I don't know if people are familiar with this, but like in Naruto, Tsunade, when it was, I believe, like the 5th Hokage, she's an old grandma age, but they have jutsu that makes her look like she's like in her 20s or something. They'll do stuff like that. And someone like Master Roshi from Dragon Ball Z would be like 500 years old and he'd be wrinkly and stuff, but that's just okay. It's just, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just how it is. It is what it is. I don't know if you can change a whole culture thing. That'd be like trying to tell Americans they can't watch sports or football, NFL football, or something like that anymore. Like, you're really gonna have a tough time trying to change all that. But I get it and I agree. It'd be cool if they could come up with a middle ground. Maybe have like cooler designs to show the age and stuff like that, and maybe have some cooler different outfits. I know everyone gets all anal about like the changing in the outfits. I don't personally care too much as long as they look cool and not silly and stupid. But at the end of the day, the thing with the aging is just that it's an excuse to basically keep them young forever, because they just in their mind they feel like they get old that no one's gonna care. And it's like, dude, diehard fans of Resident Evil are always going to care about Jill, Claire, Rebecca, no matter how old they get. I mean, as I said, it's a culture thing. I get it, but they just feel like, they got to be, in their youth all the time. But once again, I get it and I understand it, but I just don't know if that'll ever change. And maybe one day it will, but that's a really big culture thing. And maybe one day Capcom will take that to heart, but it's just that I get everyone getting angry about it, but at the same time, I'm just like, what did you really expect? Like, this is Japan here, people. But as I said, it is what it is. It is what it is. I'm just more annoyed the fact that, according to them, Claire and Rebecca are only there for basically to look attractive. They don't really have a purpose, and they're not important characters. I feel like that's the bigger story there. That's the thing that I think is getting more lost in all this hoopla, the aging stuff. So, yeah, I'm really worried about Claire. So I'm not a crazy Rebecca fan, but I do respect her. But Claire, that's an insult. Claire deserves so much better, and it's just like, man, it's just... She's not getting the remake she needs, and she's not getting the brand new adventures. It seems like they get forgotten if they're even going to be mentioned. And you got to remember, like, Code Veronica and Revelations 2 was like a 15-year plus gap, like, between seeing her in an actual like game and stuff. So it's just like, they've done it before. It doesn't surprise me now. And just because you had her back in the remake 2, they're going to bring her back. But it's just like, what do people remember remake 2 more for? They remember it more for Leon. It's always more Leon's thing, not Claire's thing. And then you had Infinite Darkness, where, let's just be honest, that was the worst showing of Claire ever. And then in Death Island, like, Claire is probably the least talked about character in all of Death Island. And it's just, Claire just gets the short end of the stick every single time. And enough of it. Like, seriously, like, Claire is not just there to be a pretty face. Yeah, Claire is a attractive looking character, but Claire is so much more than that. She has so much to give, and it's unfortunate Capcom feels this way. And I really don't get it. It's just like, dude, like, Claire was one of the beginning main characters of this franchise. How do you not see the potential of what you can do with her and stuff like that? It's just, it boggles my mind. But once again, it's the same company that it took 15 years to figure out, hey, maybe we should bring Jill back. Like, I don't get it. I really don't get it. They are just really anal about certain things. Capcom, as I've always said, the Harvey Two-Face Dent of video game companies, because there'll be Harvey Dent, the right side of the coin. You think, damn, they're doing stuff really well. They know what they're doing. And then they'll flip that coin and they'll turn right into Two-Face, and you're questioning, what the hell is going on? What is wrong with these people? And it's like they can't do something good without offsetting it with something bad. It's like they have to have a perfect balance of doing something good, like, releasing, Resident Evil 4 Remake, and then they'll have to do something bad and release Exoprimal or something like that. But it is frustrating, but that is my opinion. I want to hear your guys' opinion. It's a lot to break down this whole video. Do you see them bringing, Claire or Rebecca back in future games post Death Island? Do you see a future for them? I can see Rebecca, but Claire's is the one I really want to focus on. Do you see them ever bringing her back and having her not just be a role, but be a main character role? Because it looks more foreign now than ever before, and it just looks like that Claire's just there to be there if she's ever going to be in anything, let alone be a main playable character in a brand new adventure. Do you feel like she got the short end of the stick in Death Island? If you have seen a movie, I certainly do. And what's your whole take on the whole, Claire and Rebecca are just there to look hot and pretty in the movie? They're not important characters. Does that annoy you, piss you off? And obviously the whole aging thing, which, as I know, a lot of people get annoyed by that, and I get it, understand it. But once again, if you've been around Japan and anime for a while, you kind of know these things, pretty well. But that is going to be it. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video, and hopefully I can see you guys back on the next one. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and hope to see you all later. Peace.